Okay, ready? Two. Hi, welcome to 5 Minutes with Fry. I am Jen Fry. I'm the owner of Jen Fry Talks. Jen Fry Talks is a social justice firm that focuses on educating and empowering those within athletics through an anti-racist lens. Sorry, I've been gone for so long. I started my PhD at Michigan State, and it's tough. So we are back, and we are starting the new year, the new decade, 2020, off to start at the Black Student Athlete Summit. And so I have my guest starting off the year, and we've been talking for about 2 years about getting her on the show. So please introduce yourself.
There's no pressure. Wow. 2 years.
2 years.
First of the decade. Hi, everyone. I'm Akilah Laster. I am Assistant Media Relations Director at Tennessee. So SID for short, Sports Information Director. I've been at Tennessee for 5 months now. I was previously at Cal for 3 years, and then I was also at Oklahoma for 2 years in similar roles. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you. So now, in your phenomenal professional experience, what do you feel athletic departments need to know to create a better experience for student athletes?
Well, in my role, I think there's a lot of opportunity, especially with the way social media has kind of changed the role to prepare, promote, protect. That's the three things that I always say that I do for student athletes, or at least I try to do and hit those points. And I think we need to do a deeper dive into what that actually looks like moving forward, especially with the name, image, and likeness situations that are going to change some of the things that we probably do with student athletes in those arenas. One of the things I think we need to do to improve is we need to do more media training and like more authentic media training. A lot of times we just give them some bullet points quickly before they have an interview or something. They're completely overwhelmed. Most of them don't like talking to the media because there's a stigma there that you can't trust the media, and sometimes that's true, but I don't like to have that. I don't like that to be their mindset. I'm like, this is a tool that you guys can use. They are not out to necessarily get you. If they are, this is why we prepare and protect you from those types of situations. But I think it's also just a medium in which they can really feel empowered and show who they are and create their own narrative, which is something I think we need to help student athletes evolve more into doing, is creating their own narrative, because there's so many narratives, especially for the Black male student athletes, that are typically negative. And I spoke about that last year at the Black Student Athlete Summit, about how we need to penetrate the perception that Black male student athletes typically have to deal with, and actually Black female student athletes as well, which I think they're often overlooked. So those are some of the things that I think we need to focus on more, or I try to think about when I'm working with our student athletes.
Well, I like the thing that you mentioned about protect. Can you kind of dive deeper into that? What do you mean protect our student athletes, especially from a social media aspect?
Well, I think I try to tell them, one, you need to cancel the noise. I can't imagine the type of pressures that they are under and how scrutinized they are and how hard that is for them to deal with, because I've never had to deal with that. I've never been a Division I athlete. Social media wasn't really around when I was in college. So I talk to them about if it's a necessary tool for them. I'm like, one, you need to think about how this affects you emotionally and mentally, and if it's something that you need. Now, if you do want to utilize social media, these are some of the ways that you can utilize it. You post whatever you want to post. Don't follow certain people, block people, be cautious about what you post, and think about the long-term effects of what you post, because as we can see, there are so many times that student athletes become professional athletes or become professionals in any arena, and then something from 10 years ago surfaces and it changes the trajectory of their current state or their ability to make money or keep a job. So think about past the emotional part of the immediate moment. I talk to them a lot about that, and also not responding to a lot of naysayers, because people, you don't even know these people, so their opinions should not matter. People are going to have an opinion because you are in the limelight currently, and it's hard being in the spotlight, especially at a young age. Could you imagine?
I play a small D too. I could not imagine social media now, and like you said, every single thing that they do, they are completely scrutinized, 100%.
Yeah.
How they dress when they go to the store, anything that they do, it was anonymity. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed it until I watch other people. I'm like, no, thank you.
And I'm glad you actually mentioned how they dress, because that's one of the things that we try to talk to them about as well. And it's one of the things that, as a black woman, it's really sad. Some of the things that I have to like tell these the black student athletes in particular to do, because I'm like, it's really to protect you, but it's not fair. You should be able to dress how you want and still get the same level of respect. But I know that if you come in with your do-rag on, or if you got earrings in, or your hair is not brushed, or like whatever it is, or you don't have your polo on, you have your street clothes on, then any narrative that could be taken out of context, or if you're in front of a camera and then something happens, you get in some kind of trouble, that, you know, all humans are capable of getting in trouble, then they're going to use that, oh, look at how he dressed here. I always knew he or she was such and such. And so that's part of the protection. I'm like, I know it's not fair. I know you don't care. I know, but this is really to help you. Again, it's like trying to like get them to think past the emotional reaction to things a lot. And so I say, I also think we need to be cautious about censorship. I'm not big on telling people that they can't say something. I just tell them, if you say something, these are potential consequences of what you say. I don't know how your coach is going to feel about it. I don't know how the media is going to take it. I don't know if your family will be okay with this. So think about all of those stakeholders that are invested in you and how that message could be taken. And you make the decision. I'll tell them, these are some of the things that these are some of the questions they may get asked. So how would you answer that? And then we go from there. And I'm like, okay, what about saying it this way? But never don't say that.
Yeah, because they'll probably end up saying it.
Yeah, I'm like, if you want to, but then if they say something, then I end up getting in trouble.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
there's, I mean, but I also, and I'm the same way with coaches. I'm like, because they're like adults. I'm like, I'm never gonna tell you what not to say. You are grown.
Yeah,
you can do whatever you want. I would suggest saying this, and these are some of the things that you might want to mention if you're going to talk to the press. So.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
So another thing I think of is we look at how stories are being written. Are there any tips that you can give people that have white sports information staffs?
That's
you
all
know,
of them.
that's all. I mean, as we know, I think your data says like 95% sports information staffs are white.
Yeah.
So
it's a very appalling number.
Right. So what tips can you give? Like 2 or 3 tips of like you're gonna be writing for predominantly black teams like football and basketball. What type of tips will you give that can help them out when they're writing this narrative?
I always say pay attention to the adjectives that you use when you're describing student athletes, particularly minority student athletes or student athletes from disenfranchised groups, because those play into the narrative and the stereotype that, and it feeds how the athlete identifies as well. I'm very big I don't like comparing student athletes to animals. But it happens so frequently. I mean, across the board, not just like in sports information offices, but in media. And I think we're so used to it because it's like a sports thing, but I'm like, I really do my best to not. And one of the things that I like to do, I know is so our student athletes, some of them have like locks. And I know that's, not a popular look for white people, I guess, to just be straight up. And so when I'm describing someone, I make sure I highlight how beautiful their hair is and how normal. I try to normalize a lot of things that people are so shocked by, so the athlete knows that I see you and I'm trying to get other people to see you and not see you as just this subhuman or superhuman, you know what I mean? And so I say pay attention and talk to the athletes and ask them how they want to be described. That's another thing, because I think you'll find out some very different things. When I write a story, I always make sure that the student athletes read it. I'm like, how did you feel about it? I'm like, I don't want to misrepresent you. Did I do a good job? Is this fine? And usually because I take my time with every word that I use, it's particularly in my feature stories that they end up appreciating. I really appreciate that you did this or said this about me. So talk to them and make sure you're cautious of the adjectives that you're using.
I mean, especially when you talk about, there was a great TED Talk and talks about, with black athletes, it's like very much like the stallion and the, all these these type of adjectives.
Yeah.
And then with the white athletes, it would be the strategic
Yeah.
and hardworking and like that big difference.
Yeah, it's still to this day.
Yes.
I kid you not, I like pay attention. I was looking at some of the early signing day graphics and things on social media, and I kid you not, the way that people were describing the white student athletes that signed versus the black student athletes was appalling. I remember this one institution in particular, and it said, oh, when they were highlighting the white, he's so smart. Oh, and he plays the piano, and he was doing all this great stuff. And then when it was a black student athlete, he was a freak of nature, and oh my goodness, and he's a beast. And I'm like, I'm like, you cannot do that. It was so bad, and I was just like, who approved this? But I know there's nobody in the room thinking that, because it's again normalized, and I don't even think student athletes necessarily know. I think some may, if they're a little bit more aware, or it may make them feel a certain way. But again, I think because they've been in sports so long, and that's just the norm for sports descriptions, that they don't think anything of it as far as how it makes them feel about themselves, Well,
and I think when you push back, people are like, well, I would love to be known as a beast.
Exactly.
I would love, it's like, no, it's not what we're talking about. It's how we're kind of normalizing different adjectives for different races.
Yes.
Great tips. Where can people find you if they wanted to hunt you down?
Don't hunt me down.
Don't hunt her down. Do not.
Akilah Laster Akilah Laster is my Twitter handle, and I'm on Facebook as just my name, Akilah Laster.
So if you want to look her up, find her on Twitter, send some amazing tweets at Akilah Laster. Again, I'm Jen Fry. If you want to hunt me down, please do on any social media channel. Jen Fry Talks on everything. If you want to send me an email, jenfrytalks@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. First of 2020, I appreciate you.
I hope I set a good standard for
You did. Thank you. Have a great day.
Perfect.
That is it.